Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, it's another rainy day here in Baton Rouge. You've been busy, and but here we are, a day away from the opener in Tiger Stadium. How you doing?
Doing well. Everybody who is wondering about Lundy, she's been on the mend. Do not let your golden retriever eat their food too fast and uh, swallow some into their lungs because of how fastly they inhale and develop pneumonia. But
I didn't.
she's
Yeah,
got a lot of fluids and stayed overnight. And now she's made it for the podcast. She's laying down, but she's here.
good,
She doesn't miss a podcast.
good. Yeah,
So
when you
yes,
told me that,
and even for the golden retriever, people are saying, "Oh, we'll get one of those maize bowls." Got it already. No competition for her. She can roll through it in 10 seconds. So we will
yeah,
take a new eating strategy into week 2 here.
good. Glad Lundy's all right. Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not
Yeah,
good.
she's
So
not
yeah,
on the
that's.
couch today. She has made her way right behind me on the floor on her
Yeah,
bed.
so that's kept Shay busy. But we've had plenty of content up on the Bengal Tiger. Obviously, go check that out. Subscribe if you haven't already over there.
Yeah,
Join our.
Maddie B, you called it the biggest basketball. The men's got a big basketball visitors, but you called it the biggest women's basketball recruiting weekend of the Mulkey era.
Yeah, and then obviously, if anybody can go back in history and find me a bigger one in terms of them having 3 of the top 15 players in the country on campus all at once, and
High
honestly,
school players, not
yeah,
transfers, high school.
high school players. Obviously, they had obviously a lot of good transfer ones the last couple years, but 3 of the top 15 players, and honestly, I think what makes it even bigger is the fact that they have a good chance with all 3 of them. So we'll see how it
Uh-oh.
plays out. We'll get intel out there. We'll get interviews on that and everything. So stay tuned for all of that. But
Check it out on the Bengal Tiger. Matty B's got the full men and women's breakdown, and I'll add the visitor list for football. So you're covered on recruiting on all fronts. So
yes,
again, we said it earlier in this week in the mailbag, but shout out to all the new members. And if you're not a member, now's the time. BengalTiger.com. Me and Matty B, Billy, we're there every day. And you can then go read any On3 site. That's the best part. I think that most of our members have spent the past 2 weeks on the FSU site, which is one of the bigger sites on our network. So
yes,
you kind of get your entertainment paid for,
yes.
not just LSU, it's everywhere. But met so many of y'all in Vegas. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me, hanging out, and then listening to us here on YouTube. So that's Matty B's job, though. Tell him to smash the like and subscribe.
There you
Matty
go.
B's the young buck. He knows how to
Do
work
it.
YouTube.
Do it. Subscribe. But it's Nicholls week.
It's a
Time to
100
count.
years of Tiger Stadium. We begin.
Yes, 100 years of Tiger Stadium. The lights are in. The new video boards are in. Everything's here. Everything's ready. I haven't seen it. You've seen it at least during the
I
day.
haven't seen the lights. Yeah, just saw
Yeah.
the video boards and all that. Looks nice. New
Yeah.
sound system, but yeah, lights will be a first.
I'll say this, and I know it's not even off topic because LSU fans talk about this a lot. The sound system to me is going to be the big. Honestly, it's more important to me than almost anything else because the sound system entire stadium. I mean, I've only been here for 3 years. It was just not cutting it to me. It was just not cutting it. So now I'm excited to hear calling Baton Rouge and everything just playing on an actual like speakers, and it feels like you're actually hearing it.
Yeah, well, the stadium was empty when we were there, but they blasted Call 'em Baton Rouge, and it was extremely loud, but they said it was only on 50%. So turn that
Perfect.
thing up to a full 100 and put your
Yep.
headphones on or noise blockers, and you'll be
If
good.
if you have small children, bring headphones to the
Yep,
game. That's
absolutely.
how it should be, though. That's how it should be. So, anyways, there's gonna be a lot of festivities for that. But I think because LSU lost week 1 against USC, and we talked about that in depth in our post game podcast and in the mailbag. That's all we talked about, really.
Well, and yeah,
Um,
too, that let's pause real quick because we really won't talk about that much. Through the rewatches, your film studies, and everyone taking time, that loss is not the death blow that you felt right when it ended.
no,
I think so much of that was A, you felt like you had a chance to win the game and just didn't, and USC caught the brakes, and B, it's like, when are they ever going to win a week 1 game? They've
yes,
lost 5 in a row. So the dust settled, the sun rose. I feel better. I'll speak for me, but there's a lot to like that I saw.
yeah, I agree. It was not. It definitely was in the moment a bigger deal and a worse loss than it was when I went back and rewatched it a couple times on Tuesday and Wednesday, I think. Especially when I went back and did like the run game report and all that stuff. I think the offense is going to be perfectly fine. Honestly, I'm not really worried about that. The defenses will take some time, and we'll talk about that. Obviously, we have talked about that, but that's going to be an interesting thing moving forward. And honestly, the fact they have these next 4 games, and South Carolina is not a pushover by any means, especially on the road, but you have 4 games where you're going to be 10 plus point favorites. So you hope you can iron them out and get wins along the way here. So injury report for Nicholls. We have some, obviously we did the mailbag podcast, and like 2 hours later, the John Emery news broke, and it's obviously heartbreaking. John Emery tears his ACL again. I believe it's the other one this time. I don't remember which leg. Tears his other ACL in practice, non-contact, just, goes down, and he's done for the year. And this is obviously a guy who came back, went to the portal. We thought he was going to go to UCLA or something, comes back to LSU because LSU needs running backs. And he has a great first game, like by far the best running back LSU had in that first game. And just, I guess, wasn't able to hold up. I mean, I don't know the exact how it happened in practice, but obviously,
I heard it was non-contact. He just planted.
Yeah, non-contact, and it's just devastating. And so Brian Kelly talked about it in his press conference on Thursday, just how bad, the entire team felt for him and how they're all supporting him and everything. And it was just a really somber moment, I think, for the team. But now you have to move on the rest of the season, and now the pressure's on Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams, the offensive line, and now Caden Durham to step up in his place.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've known John. I've known Big John. I've known his mom for a long time. It sucks. And this is a kid that got, even when you looked, Matty B, at the national reports of it when it came out, every fan base out there, Bama, Georgia, everyone was like, man, that sucks, because everyone can remember he was committed to Georgia. LSU flipped him. He was a 5-star, number 1 running back in the country coming out of Destrehan. They keep him home. And it's just, I mean, everyone felt like he got screwed when he had to sit 15 games for academics. Then he tears his ACL. Then he tears his ACL again. And it's just like, can't catch a break. But he announced that he was having surgery. So hopefully all went well for him. And we'll see kind of where things take it from there. But yeah, before we move on into that, just a quick shout out to John, his family, and everyone kind of close to him. It sucks. And I will say this, though. Look, John Emery has a national championship ring from 2019. Quick quiz, Matty B. Who's the only other player on roster that has a national championship ring from 2019?
It's not Josh Williams, right? Didn't Josh Williams
It
come
is
here?
Josh Williams.
It is Josh Williams. I couldn't remember if he came 2019 or 2020. Okay, it is Josh Williams. Yeah.
Very quickly. You answered, you beat everybody else who's listening probably. But
I said it's not, but I that was the first name that came to mind because I know how old he is and how
you know how old he is. Josh Williams coming out of Kincaid was on that 2019 team. So you actually had 2 running backs that won natties that year that are on this roster.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the running back situation now, or do you want to?
Well, go ahead and dive into that first. I mean, I did an article on it saying, look, all offseason, you mentioned it, there was a time where he was in the portal. There was the ongoing time, regardless of portal or not, that he was in rehab from the ACL injury. So we didn't even know how quickly he could get back. So the 1-2 punch that we thought Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson would be to start for this team is still there. I mean, even in the offseason, people were saying, hopefully John can get in there and give him some touches, maybe give him 5 or 6 a game. CLA works back from injury. That's exactly what happened. He got his 5 or 6 in the third quarter, and now he tears his ACL again in a non-contact injury, which sucks. But up next, obviously, that's football. Even everybody gets it. So my first point was the 2 guys that we thought were going to be their main ball carriers are still there. Now, Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams didn't have the game they wanted in week 1. Let's see how things go from there. We've already discussed that. A myriad of issues led to bad O-line or bad run game against the Trojans, and O-line, play call, guys not seeing the right hole, USC playing well and just blowing up guys in the run game. Like, we'll see how they figure that out. But then the next was Caden Durham, who was a top 5 running back on the On3 industry rankings when Frank Wilson signed him out of high school in Duncanville arguably the best high school football team in the country last year. He was the go-to piece, really. DeCorian Moore is a monster. Keelan Russell's a great quarterback. Colin Simmons was on one of those teams playing edge, but when they won back-to-back state titles, Caden Durham was the MVP in both those games. So this is a guy who casually was breaking 10.5 in the 100. We know he's that one cut back with elite speed. I'm not going to compare him to where he's at versus Caleb Jackson, but similar styles to where just super fast guys who, if you let them free, they're going to run by you. And if you're in their way, they'll run you over. I mean, they're big kids. So Jackson bigger than Caden, but similar styles. Now we have to see how much Caden's workload increases. We have no update on the only other scholarship running back, which was Trey Holly. He's got his ongoing legal stuff. But Brian Kelly, when you went and talked to him yesterday, Matty B, tossed out, hey, well, the Gatorade Player of the Year last year in Louisiana was Juwan Johnson, playing at LCA. He was their quarterback all 4 years and shattered every record pretty much out there for yardage and all that. But then moved to DB. He was playing safety and now has moved to running back. And obviously this is a depth play, but I'm not going to say they won't use him because they used Xavion Thomas back there in game one.
Yeah. And we saw Juwan when Javian Toviano was sidelined for a bit in fall camp. We saw Juwan Johnson run with the twos at the start. So I don't think this is a permanent thing in terms of him moving to the offensive side of the ball. Maybe if he shows that he is productive at running back or, slot receiver or whatever they want to do with him there, maybe he can do that. But
Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah, Wildcat. But ultimately, I do think his future is still at the safety position. You can correct me if you think otherwise, but
I think so too.
But I think he's still like this. This doesn't mean he's doesn't have a position, and they're just like, oh, just throw him on offense because he doesn't have any skill or whatnot. But I think he's definitely capable on the defense side of the ball, and he's just doing this to kind of help out. It will be interesting the redshirt situation though moving forward. If he plays over 4 games,
they balanced that really well last year. Like DJ Chester and all them got red shirts. Like once guys hit that threshold of 4 games, they played it well to where it wasn't, for the backups. They weren't throwing guys onto special teams and burning red shirts. So you're right. Curious to see how that works out. I also think that being a quarterback, he was going to need develop more than a year, right, to develop as a safety. Kylan Jackson, all these guys that are playing safety, they played safety in high school. They have a little bit shorter of a learning curve. So I think if I'm Brian Kelly and them, I'm certainly looking around at, hey, who doesn't hurt us if we grab them from a position, and who's kind of, if you put the ball in their hands, they've proven at some point in their football career they can do something. Juwan jumps. He would be the number 1 choice on that list. He's got more production carrying the football than anyone on the team has at the high school level. So I don't mind the move.
Besides him, is the only other defensive player that could possibly do it.
Don't say it. But yes, it is.
He's the only one.
He was a monster.
I'm not missing somebody, right?
No, Harold Perkins, number 7.
Well, Michael Turner was receiver, but he's not a running back. Michael Turner.
No, you don't want to put him back there. Harold Perkins was a monster in high school running back. Well, we got a glimpse of it, right? He did get a carry last year.
He did. Yeah, got a touchdown. Bowl game.
Got a touchdown.
Let's.
But no, I do not think they're going to move.
No,
Harold.
I don't think so. Let's move on. Chris Hilton is out once again. Bone bruise, foot.
No need to play him.
Brian Kelly's talked about it before, but the cutting aspect and the getting in and out of his breaks aspect of it is what they're hung up on right now. Yeah, again, no reason to play him. I don't think they rush him back. So the South Carolina game next week will be an interesting landmark or benchmark, I guess, because after that, then it's South Alabama. So, again, if they need him, if he's healthy, South Carolina, I think, will be the game that they look to play him in. And the second one is Garrett Dellinger is questionable. I don't have details on that, but Brian Kelly just said.
Yeah, I think they said concussion is kind of what the buzz was, or protocol for it at least, but he didn't have his best game, certainly not in the run game against USC. He's a very talented player, multi-year starter, but he was on his backside a couple times. So he'll be back. I wouldn't worry there. And it gives us a chance to see Tyree Adams and how they begin to move around, because more than just the starting 5 will play versus Nicholls if everything goes as planned. So we'll get to see who Brad Davis views and where he views them as the backups, kind of, because I think that is an important thing to start to think about, because you're probably losing 3 to 4 of your starters after this year. So
Yeah.
start to get an early look at some other guys.
Yeah. Two things. Obviously, well, the first thing we've already kind of talked about is the defensive back rotation. That's going to be the first thing I'm interested to watch with this Nicholls game is how they do rotate because, again, you should be up 30 points at halftime, something like that. Like you should in the second quarter be able to rotate guys in that aren't starting. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who they go to. PJ Woodland should play a ton. Obviously, Javian Toviano, Kylan Jackson, Sean McBride, all the guys we've talked about in over the past week. Even like a Michael Turner, even a J.K. Johnson, like those guys should all get extended reps against Nicholls. Who knows how much Nicholls will throw the ball around? But ultimately, the secondary and how they rotate that is when I did my story on the 5 things we need to see from LSU against Nicholls, the first one I wrote was the secondary rotation, just because I want to see these other guys and see how, do they move Sage at all to safety or star? How exactly do they go about tweaking and testing out this secondary against Nicholls? That's the first thing I wrote.
Yeah, I think that obviously everyone wants to see more of PJ or some of PJ Woodland in addition to what we saw. Ashton Stamps looks like their cornerback one. And then what other corners behind them do we start to get to see, whether it's the Tovianos or the Ohio State transfers or, anybody else that can kind of help them out. I was a little surprised too. Maybe a little Zy Alexander
Yes.
may get a little run, who is he at the Army game, which was at the midway point of last year, tore his ACL. So I would think that's a little early on the. I would not guess he's 100%, but
10 months.
Brian Kelly said at least they're ready to clear him to get suited up on a game day and maybe run around a bit. But maybe that becomes more important to just feel him out these next few weeks before you play a team like Ole Miss, who is a top 5 team right now and can throw the football. So the more help at DB you can get, the better. And he started it every game until he got hurt last year at corner, and certainly was serviceable. So I do think though I want to see those guys, and I'm eager. Jordan Gilbert will miss the first half this week for the targeting call.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jordan Allen will start again. We'll see who they put there in his place. Maybe they have Sage back there, and we see a Woodland right out of the gate starting. I'm not sure if we see some of Kylan in the star. Do they move Major back there? I don't know what the answer will be, but we'll see Saturday night, and I think it's a good chance for them, obviously, if they handle business, try some things out, and that's what they'll do.
Yeah. Last thing I have here before we get to the break, I just want to see a clean game in terms of penalties. This should be I don't want to say 0 penalty game, but a very, very few penalty game coming off of where you had 99 yards and 10 penalties against USC. You're at home. This is a low pressure environment. You should take the lead fairly quickly. You shouldn't be reaching for holds. You shouldn't be, you know, getting pass interference calls because you should be in position and you should be able to stick with these receivers. Like there definitely should not be any personal foul penalties. Like this is a game where you should have 0, 1, or 2 penalties on like, there should be no false starts, no delay of games. Like, this is all very fundamental, very rudimentary practice type stuff. That's one of my biggest things here is just no penalties, stay disciplined, take care of business.
In the first game of the NFL season, the Ravens were flagged like 4 straight
Yeah,
times and warned because they couldn't line up
yeah,
on the line of scrimmage with the center's waistline. And all I could think after the 4th one was like, I'm glad this isn't the LSU week 2 game right now,
yeah,
because the board, the YouTube, everything would be on fire that they can't figure out how to line up correctly. So I'm with you. Clean game. I want to see them run the football to some degree that looks successful. There should be no excuse not to be able to do that. You don't have to have Garrett Dellinger out there. You can be down a starter. They're talented enough depth wise to where they can go and run the football. So that is with the running backs. That's what I want to see. So that's kind of my big thing in addition to penalties.
Yeah.
Or no penalties.
Yeah, no penalties. Last thing I'll say is also see if they can get Pimpton and Green going a little bit at the tight end spots. I wrote that as well, and especially in the red zone. And I think when they need we talked about before, but when it gets to those tough yards and you have those like 12 or even 13 personnel sets, like you have to. Brian Kelly talked about you have to be versatile out of them, and you have to be a threat to throw the ball. All right, well, this is the perfect time. Get them going, get them some confidence here. So
yeah, Kelly said it became very obvious to them after the game that, like, man, when we went out in 12 and 13, USC just didn't think. They said they're not going to throw it; they're running it. So yeah, Pimpton had one big catch, nearly a first down. That had he gotten it, maybe would have changed the game a bit. They get stuffed on that next play and had to punt, but Trey Dez only had one. Garrett threw it to him down the sideline. So yes, I would like to see more than one target for each of those guys. Let's get them out there on some routes and see what they can do. I have to imagine there's not many people on the Nicholls defense that can guard 2-6-6 guys like that.
don't think so. I don't think so. All right, you ready to jump to an ad read?
Yeah, let's do that before we get into all of our little preview prediction stuff. It's game time. Matty B, you look this up while I'm talking. I bet tickets are pretty cheap to get into the first game of the 100 years of Tiger Stadium celebration. So every year we were rocking with Game Time. Thank you to Game Time for sticking with us, re-upping for another year. But LSU fans came through. You guys bought a lot of tickets through them, whether it was LSU, Pelicans, concerts in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, wherever you live. Go seeing baseball games, football games, doesn't matter. They've got it all. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code ON3, just ON3, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code. It's just ON3 when you check out, and you will get $20 off immediately. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Whew. Look, I've gotten plenty of deals. I've told you about that.
Look at this.
Where are you trying to sit? Yeah. You're on the field calling plays for 60-something bucks right there.
$85, row 3. Yeah, you can get some tickets. $60 over here. Like you said, you have the field view here, which is very nice.
I love the field view. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, Matty B has now mastered how to
I know. It's not just Billy who can do this anymore.
Yep, Billy was the one who thought he could do it. Only nope. Look at Matthew just going back and forth.
Look at that.
Full field view
game. There. This is incredible. Yeah. So
yes, plenty. And look,
those will probably, for sure.
Those will probably go down some too. So if you're out there tomorrow thinking about, hey, maybe I'll ride up and watch the game, you can get them for cheap. Get them on Game Time, and they've got the lowest price guarantee. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if you can find something cheaper in the same seats elsewhere. So, and one of the biggest things they talk about is the seat view, which Matty B is showing you now. But whether it's ticket coverage, they've got you fully covered. Whether it's all-in pricing, you're not getting to check out, and then all of a sudden the ticket went from $30 to $400. Everything's very upfront. And they've got curated deals, super deals, all of that, flash sale deals. If you check kind of right before the game, all that, you'll see big numbers dropping, and they'll highlight them for you. So check them out, Game Time. If you do not have the app yet, download it. It's in the App Store, Game Time, one word. And then whenever you buy your ticket, LSU or not, anything you want to go see, it's in there. Put that promo code in ON3 and save yourself $20.
All right, players of the game or game ball predictions here. Do you have one off the top of your head? I have an idea.
Are you going collective unit, or are you about to pick players?
Nope.
Okay. You're not deviating from the unwritten rules. Okay, go first.
All right, I'm just gonna take Caleb Jackson here, and I think he's gonna come out. He didn't look like as spry as maybe we hoped that he'd look. I think there was a little bit of trepidation maybe, or being timid to a degree in terms of getting those, like knowing you're going to be one of the guys and having those carries. And when the hole doesn't open up immediately, maybe he got a little happy feet and just started, panicking. I don't want to say panicking, but just like kind of rushing a bit. I think against Nicholls, the holes will be there. He's going to get through them. He's going to make a couple highlight plays. Caleb Jackson, I don't know what his rushing prop is because we don't have props here in Louisiana anymore. But I'm going to say over 75 yards for Caleb Jackson here. Over 75 and a touchdown for Caleb Jackson. I feel like you should also be able to maybe take like a sleeper pick in this game where you should, in theory, have some of the younger guys step up here.
Yeah, I bet they play a lot of the starters for through the first half.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Kyron Lacey has multiple touchdowns
There you go.
in this game with no celebration penalties. That's a double down prediction right there.
There you go.
2 touchdowns, no celebrations.
I like it. All right,
I'll take the 2 touchdowns though. If he does celebrate, just consider that part of the side bet. But I think he can get himself open in this one and then find the end zone.
Yeah. And I also think Nussmeier will be looking to be a little bit more vertical at a couple instances early in the game. Even though Hilton's not there, I think CJ Daniels and Kyron Lacey could
That's
be.
someone I would like to see. We didn't get to see anything really from him in the USC game.
Yeah.
You brought in 1,000-yard, 10-plus touchdown receiver. I'm not saying you underutilized him or anything against USC. I don't really care about that. I just want to see how good he looks, or what he looks like when he can catch and run with it. So he is someone else, a starting receiver, the number 2 receiver on the team. Without Chris Hilton, and I'm riding Kyron Lacey in this one, I do want to see what CJ Daniels can do.
Yeah. Defensively,
yes, sir.
I mean,
with?
It's hard to take anybody in the secondary because we don't really know what that looks like outside of Stamps and Gilbert and Allen. I'll go with Weeks. I think last week it was jarring, and I said this on the mailbag pod. He played 33% of the snaps, played 21 out of 63 snaps last week, and I think he's going to be on the field for 50% plus here. And because he can play with the starters, and then when they go to the the reserves, he can also play with that group, with his brother, with some of the freshmen like a Devon Keys and so on and so forth. So I think he gets enough run where Whit Weeks is going to in the game with, let's say, 8+ tackles, 2 TFLs. There you go.
I'm stuck on my pick. Should I roll? I'm trying to play the numbers here. I don't think like Savion Jones would be he had a big game last week. I'm not picking him.
What about Womack?
I love the DTs. Yeah, I want to pick Womack, but then that would seem like I want to go Swinson or Shand here. I think they both get extended minutes, reps, snaps, whatever here. I was trying to scroll down and see. Let me see real quick. You did the PFF grades and your actual breakdown, which I thought was great. So I'm looking at the snap counts for what they both had. And
yeah, the defensive line should be the one should feast. I think Suggs had a good first game. Paez had a solid game. Savion was obviously really good. So
Swinson played 52 snaps. Shand played 28. I will think then that Shand would be out there more. I'll go Paris Shand.
Yeah.
D-end played solid last week, I thought. I could see this being a game where if Savion or Swinson, those guys aren't in there as much, he's got a little bit more room to be disruptive and more time. So I love Womack. I mean, I could pick him, but I'll go off the radar. I'll take Shand.
Is there any one player that you're excited to see that you don't think we'll see a ton this year that you're excited to see in this game?
Well, I think it's got to be these DBs like Kylan Jackson. I mean, I think we will see Kylan Jackson this year, but I think the guys like that will play more of this game, and then maybe that could give us a gauge for where they're at.
I was going to say
PJ Woodland is one, but I think he starts. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm saying guys who are that you don't think will start a game this year that we'll see more of this. And one name came to mind. I asked that
Gabe Relaford.
I was going to say Gabe Relaford. I was going to say we've seen him. I don't think he's going to play a ton this year because of Shan.
Yeah, we just listed off 9 guys
all these
who were good
defensive ends that they're really good. But in this game in particular, Relaford gets on the field. We've seen what he can do against LSU's 2s, right? In the spring game, he was phenomenal. So against Nicholls,
and they loved him in fall camp.
Yeah, fall camp is really good. Against Nicholls, Relaford should have some plays where you're like, oh, wow. The fans are going to be like, why isn't he on the field more? And it's like, well, because it's Nicholls or because it's LSU's second string and so on and so forth. But I think he should be able to make some plays.
I will say if this were on offense, and I do want to see a little of Caden Durham, but I think we're going to see that anyways this year because of the Emory injury. And I don't know if he's healthy or not because it's been in and out, but if Jelani Watkins were playing in a game like this, we talked about it on the mailbag pod this week. He's there with Gatlin Blair, and if it were any other class in the last decade, there would be no tie. But this is a kid that was hitting 10 twos and trying to hit 10 flat and will be one of LSU's best sprinters for the track and field team over the next few years. Has a future to run for Team USA. You give him the ball in space in a game like today in the fourth quarter, I think that like Saturday, I think he's gone. That's 70 yards to the house.
Yeah, I love Kylan Billiot as well.
Right.
And just as a player, I think he's gonna be really good. But I would say
Shelton Sampson.
Yeah. Well, this should be a Shelton Sampson game.
But also you're trying to we're picking sleepers who may not play. But he got called out by Brian Kelly. Hey, you step up this week.
Yes, Shelton should get some catches this week. If he doesn't get catches this week, then we might be in trouble. I will say Weston Davis is going to be really fun because I watched him in fall camp and watched Coach Davis just absolutely work him and just stay on him and grill him time after time. So Weston Davis, obviously 5-star on 3. Like, this is a guy who I'm going to be excited to see because we didn't see him in the spring. So this is going to be our first real look at him in a game situation. So
all right. We usually do kind of a keys to the game, right? But I mean, I think
I think we just jumped to predictions and
we talked about it earlier. We want to see no penalties in the run game.
Yes. Yeah.
That'd
we
be
talked
nice.
about keys there. Let's go. What you got? I know you texted to me. I didn't read it yet because I'm gonna post our story whenever we're done here.
I have. Did I type it? Let me see if I typed it straight out. Okay. I've got LSU 54, Nicholls 6. I don't know what the line is, but I bet it's right around there somewhere.
Yeah, I bet around 50, if I had to guess.
Yeah, over under wise, I guess it'd be in that range. Look, I think this is more about LSU lost the season opener to. Let's just play the Brian Kelly era here, Matty B. They lost the season opener 2 years in a row to FSU. They go on 2 years ago to win the SEC West, beat Bama. They went 9-1 in those next 10 games. Last year, they went 6-1 in that next stretch of games. So they've shown that for whatever reason it is, when when it becomes kind of the tightrope walk and it's kind of the margin for error is so thin after week 1, they lock in, and it's easy, kind of nice to get off to a start like that with Nicholls, where go out, put up points, get a lot of guys in, keep guys fresh, get ready for next week against South Carolina, get in and out without injuries, and you'll feel good about things. But point being, long-term, I think this is the start of what needs to be a very nice run. It sets up well for them. South Carolina doesn't look as formidable as we would have thought prior to them almost losing to Old Dominion at home in week 1. You play them on the road at 11 a.m., so it's not even a night game. That follows Nicholls, and then you've got UCLA, which is not a great UCLA team at all, not even comparable to the one that beat LSU a couple of years back. And then you've got South Alabama at home, who were just taken down by Matty B's Mean Green, a little too mean, just straight taking USA out in week 1. But that sets up well. Then you're on bye. Then you get Ole Miss at home, and Ole Miss doesn't have a bye before that game. So the focus for me, just let this be the beginning of the run that gets you to 4-1, get a bye, and then you face a top 5 Ole Miss team at home. So, and anything can happen then, regardless of how talented Ole Miss is versus what LSU might have. But the other thing I thought was that score-wise, they came out last year, it was Southern and Grambling.
So the last 2 years, it was Southern 2 years ago, 65-17. Last year, it was Grambling 72-10. I will say Nicholls should be better than both of those teams. Nicholls is a top 25. They're in like 22-25 in FCS rankings right now. And
they didn't get blown out by La Tech last week.
They lost by a touchdown to La Tech last week. Or lost by 8 to La Tech last week on the road. So, they're like I said, they should be better than what Southern and Grambling were. Again, it shouldn't be 7-0 is my point. Like, they should actually maybe have a pulse at times. Last year Nicholls lost to TCU 41-6 and lost to Tulane 36-7. So again, they're not getting steamrolled in these FBS games.
I gave him 6. Maybe I'm hating on it. Yeah, look, I love McQuaid. I've been to Manning multiple years in a row. He's always the hit down there because it's the hometown school. And
Yeah.
they do have Quincy Brown, who was playing at Destry. He was a great, really great player coming out of high school, went to TCU, started games at TCU, but then transferred back home, went to Nicholls, and he was the guy that McQuaid was going out to in that La Tech game last week. So at least in a game that maybe shouldn't be competitive, the one spot that a guy can give you some competition at, even if he doesn't get the ball, is corner. I mean, Quincy Brown put Stamps, Woodland, whoever on him and get a feel for how they look against a guy who's very good.
Now I'm trying to think about my score because
I went 6. I thought Ben don't break. I gave him 2 field goals.
Okay. I think they get on the board. I think they get touchdown. I think LSU is going to come out, run the ball a bit more than maybe they did in the last 2 years in this FCS game.
Because they need to?
Yeah, they need to. And I think they're going to. I think they'll pop some. So give me 49-14.
I thought you were about to say in the 30s.
52-14. 52-14.
I was going to mute you and not allow people to hear that and drive off the road.
I'll up it one more. 52-14. There you go.
God, you just went. How many points did you just go up? 3?
3. I went up 3. 49-14. I went up to 52-14.
Oh, you're giving them 2 touchdowns. All right, I went 54-6. I guess USC scored correctly, 27.
You did.
You
were way closer than me. I
thought the defense were not going to 31, and they didn't. So, score in the red zone. Hey, there's something you can do this weekend as well. Score touchdowns in the red zone.
Please,
it's a big thing.
And defer if you win the toss.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. But it should work this time because in theory,
I'm not mocking Brian Kelly either. Brian Kelly said that's not going to happen. His philosophy is that he's taking the football.
Yes. So, all right. Anything else? I think we're all good.
We're good to go, brother. And see everybody officially. 100 Years of Tiger Stadium begins Saturday night. It is on SEC Network Plus for those that plan ahead. If you're like turning on the game at the last minute and you're trying to find it, it's streaming. So it'll be on the ESPN app on SEC Network Plus.
Yeah. So tune in. We'll be back with the post-game podcast afterwards. We'll have a full, obviously, post-game breakdown and everything we learned from the team and whatnot. So subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3 if you haven't already. We appreciate all the subs over there, message boards, lively as ever. Huge recruiting week, football, basketball, everything. I even heard softball has a big recruit on campus.
Let me make some calls.
Yeah,
I can get the scoop on that as well.
There you go. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to our YouTube if you haven't already. Thank you to everybody who's checked us out. Send to a friend. We will talk to y'all later.